Good morning and greetings, and welcome to another exciting episode of One Path to Wealth. I am your host, Jeremy Dicker, the Hebrew Hammer, and I'm actually broadcasting today from my old hometown, Los Angeles, California. And as I was coming in today, thinking about things to talk about on our episode this morning, I thought about nature versus nurture, where we come from, and how important it is to acknowledge, understand, and to focus on where we come from so that we know where we're going. And it reminded me of a story. 2019, my wife and I are at a hotel sitting by the pool, and I get a call from my cousins, who are my father's cousins. So they're in their 70s, second cousins. And they say, Jeremy, we were contacted by this woman who said she's related to us. She did a 23andMe. And so she did the test, she sent it in, and we did the test. And the only way she's related to us is if she is your aunt. So would you be willing to do the test and see what happens? I said, sure. Went, did the deal, and gave my specimen and the spit test there, and came back, and she was 51% me. And so she decides that she wants to come down and meet us, meet the family, meet her blood relatives. And what it turns out was that was my father's sister, and no one knew about her. And so she comes down. We all meet in Marina Del Rey at a hotel, and she looks exactly like my father did. Same hair, very strange. My father had been deceased for a number of years, and she did not know that she was Jewish. She did not know that she had a brother. She was an only child. She grew up in a house, and ironically, my father was also an only child. And she grew up not knowing that her father wasn't her father. Her mother obviously was her mother. And through the course of our conversation, what came out was that her mother was actually a model that worked for my grandfather at the Furrier that they owned way back in the 50s and 60s. And clearly my grandfather had an affair and had this child. What we don't know is if he actually knew that he had this child, and we suspect he did. But what we do know is that her parents never told her anything. She had no idea about any of that. And she's gone on to have a couple of children of her own. She was very, very successful. She was an attorney. She had a lighting business that she sold for a big amount of money. She's got a very successful ranch in Oregon. And did quite well for herself, but always had this burning question of, who is she? And it got me thinking about, this idea of nature versus nurture, and how we think about our children and how they're going to grow up. And you hope that the gene pool is strong enough to provide them with all the things that they need to be successful. You hope that the gene pool is strong enough to make them, unbelievable people and great contributors to society. This woman had incredible parents, and they clearly raised an incredible woman. And I think my father would have loved to have known that he had a sister. He was an only child, as I said earlier. And she certainly would have loved to have grown up with a brother. That was clear as she has had her children now. And I remember her coming up to the house and asking for some photographs of my grandfather, her biological father. And we did. We talked a bit, and we found this amazing picture of my grandfather sitting there with Walt Disney. And Walt Disney and my grandfather were friends. And this picture, my cousins had chimed in and said, "I remember that photo." And I said, "Really? What's the driver behind the photo?" Well, Walt Disney had come to my grandfather and said, "Hey, I've got this idea. It's called Disneyland, and I'd like you to invest in it." And my grandfather, of course, chose to not invest in that, and subsequently changed the course of the Dicker family legacy forever. But as I think about that, it's amazing to think about the different connections that we all have, that we make, the families that we come from, and how interesting each of our own paths can be, and how they can lead us down different ways. I mean, my father was not the most engaged father. He was not around a lot, as I said many times before in other episodes, other times that I've spoken about this. My parents were divorced at a young age. And I grew up with a very strong understanding of work ethic that came from my mother's side of family. My mother worked extremely hard, raising two kids on her own with a father that wasn't really there. And I've got that strong work ethic. And as I think about those things and what I try to impart on my kids, is that importance of strong work ethic, understanding where you come from, and understanding that no matter what you do, there's always going to be a line that's inside of you. Now, whether you can be the greatest baseball player in the world or the smartest attorney or the best doctor, a lot of that comes from the effort you put out. That's for sure. But a lot of it does come from that idea of nature. And were you born with certain specific gifts? Both of my kids are very blessed. My daughter and my son, they're very, very smart. My son's a phenomenal athlete. My daughter is great with music and all of these amazing talents that she has in that regard. And I look at both sides of both of my kids and think to myself, where does each of that come from? Well, my side of the family, it's a very musical family. My aunt being an opera singer, a lot of musical talent on that side of the family on my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, my dad also really enjoyed music. But on both sides of the family, we loved baseball. And my son has got the baseball bug, plays third base and catcher, similar to what I played when I was growing up and in his age. But he's far better than I ever was. And, I've got cousins that played professional baseball. So you look at that nature aspect of his upbringing, and it's very interesting to see how he gravitates towards one thing versus another. My daughter, on the other hand, is not the most competitive. My son and I are very competitive. My daughter is not the most competitive. My wife is not the most competitive. So she's got that aspect, but she loves music, horseback riding, and all of those different things. So why do I share all this? Well, I share all this because I think none of us get to choose where we come from. None of us. I don't think my father would have ever chosen to have been a homeless person. He never would have wanted to live on the street. I think he would have liked to have been more engaged in my life growing up, but just wasn't able to. He didn't have the tools. And then as he got older, he didn't have the health. His mental health was obviously significantly compromised due to Parkinson's disease and paranoid schizophrenia. And he didn't have the most majestic ending to his life, I should say, and died before he met either one of his grandchildren. But as I think about the other aspects of my family and my upbringing, I think the benefits that you have from growing up in a household where you're taught to work hard every day, have strong integrity about the work that you do, care about people, those kinds of things are skills that can transfer down to those that are coming up behind us, like my children. My son isn't the most empathetic, and sometimes that's a concern. My daughter is. And as I think about what that has meant as we try to coach our kids into being better humans, and ultimately as they get older to make the right decisions, I think the other component that's very, very important as a parent, and I guess to some extent what we're talking about today is a lot of that, is it's providing our kids with a strong backing and an understanding that we're always going to be there for them, no matter what. And at times in my family where we've not gotten along, we've had challenges, whether it be on one side or the other, the one thing that's always been clear, even if we haven't agreed, whether it be politically or otherwise, socially or otherwise, what's always been very clear to me is that my family has always had my back. And I think there's nothing more important than imparting it to your kids and the people that you love and care about, that no matter what decisions they make, sans a decision like murdering someone or doing something really horrible, but any other decision that they make, the fact that you can communicate clearly that no matter what, you're always going to have that backup, that support always is really important. And as I think about this aunt that I never knew about, clearly her parents had her back. Clearly her father and mother did a great job raising an incredible human being. Hopefully a little bit of that came from the DNA that my grandfather, her illegitimate father, helped produce. But most importantly, the parents that she had, the role models that she had, the people that she chose to surround herself with, provided her with that incredible background. And as I see my family today, my mother, my aunts, my cousins, all of them, it's very clear that their parents, our family, our unit, our tribe has always had their back, whether it been an issue that one of my cousins or I had growing up. We always knew that our family was going to be there to support us and how important that is. And how that transfers into business, it's the same thing. You want to surround yourself with people that believe in you, that trust in you, that know that you're going to march down that pathway the way that is most important and most productive and most safe for those individuals that look to you for their livelihood. But it's also important to make sure that they understand that you've got their back too. Should something come down the line, a mistake get made that isn't catastrophic, those kinds of things are going to happen. Nobody's perfect. But in business, it's also very important to demonstrate that, to believe that, and to deliver on that, whether it be with your clients, the people that you work with, and otherwise. And again, I think it all comes down to that idea of nature versus nurture. There's a combination of natural skills that I've been blessed with, and certainly the people that I work with have been blessed with. And then there's that nurturing relationship. My COO has been with me 19 years. My CIO has been with me for 16 years. They believe in the path that we're going down professionally, and they know that I have their back should something come up that needs to be addressed along the way. So with that, why was that something that I felt important to talk about today? Well, as we look around what's happening in the world, I think it's very important that we focus on the positive things that there are, because in every negative, there certainly is a positive. There's never, ever a situation, or very rarely, I should say, where it's a negative. There's always things that you can glean that are positive things from things that happen along the way. And I think it's important to focus on that. So I choose to always focus on the positive. That's something that I learned as a young man, that it's important to, and to some extent, that's not been all that positive from the standpoint that I will oftentimes ignore the negative things in a effort to always stay positive and focused. It's important to learn from those negative experiences and those lessons, but most importantly, you got to stay focused. You got to stay moving forward, and you got to stay with your true north, whatever that might be for you. And most importantly, for those of us that have children, for those of us that have employees that depend and rely on us, it's important to have that true north, to be steady at all times, to be that oak, that brick wall of support when those people need it and need a shoulder to lean on. And most importantly, to not only provide the natural resources, but also to be nurturing along the way. Natural resources in business are obviously those things that we know, hard work, revenue, things like that. And the nurture is being that shoulder to lean on when someone has something going on with them, asking questions, making sure they're getting what they need, and that their needs are being met as well. So with that, I am the Hebrew Hammer. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of One Path to Wealth. If you like this episode and others, please make sure you click like, and remember to subscribe to this as well as our blog, which is weekly. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to One Path to Wealth podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.onewealthmgmt.com or give us a call at 855-663-9584. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of One Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Investment advisory services offered through One Wealth Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance solutions offered through One Wealth Management, Financial and Insurance Services, Inc.